Yes, I am super uber casual this morning. I'm doing a very relaxed, which I'm sure going to be very contentious at some point, based upon the weekend that we've had. Very relaxed caffeine corner. In my comfy robe. I'm nice and warm. I've got a nice hot coffee. Got Cheshire here. It's going to be relaxing.
Hello. I'm really tired, so I'm probably going to say something a little bit more stupid than normal, or I'm going to be a little bit more frustrated or short than normal, or both.
See, I slept wonderfully. I gotta tell you, since I've been exercising, I have slept better than I have in a very long time. No, not even kidding. So when people say, "Yeah, exercise help you sleep," it is true. I mean, I've had like 8 hours of sleep almost consistently every night for the last like 3 weeks. I just
That's
passed out
good.
last night. Yeah, it was late. Don't get me wrong. So I might, but
I couldn't sleep last night,
what were you
so
thinking about?
I'm awake
Were you
thinking
were you
about how much
pondering
pain I.
mathematics?
Yes, I was thinking about how much I hate Ayn Rand now, and I've never read a single thing she's ever put out.
You're in good company. Yeah, Rand is not big in the philosophical community. She's not very popular. She was like even growing up when I did read Atlas Shrugged, and it was just horrible. But she was considered to be the gateway drug to philosophy. It's not really even philosophy.
Man, I don't know. I should specify what I'm saying. I haven't read any of her stuff, but the reason I'm starting to dislike her and her philosophy is the people that are talking about her and her philosophy. Not necessarily because I disagree or agree with anything she said, because I don't know, I haven't read her stuff. These people are just infuriating.
Yeah. Well,
they're very difficult. They're very difficult to talk to. I'll put it that way.
They obfuscate a lot, and they prevaricate a lot. There actually is called the cult of Ayn Rand for a reason. That is the mindset that they have.
Mm-hmm.
It is a just like Scientology. It is you're a suppressive person if you don't agree with them. But it isn't philosophy that I can't see really any kind of real philosophy in it. It's pop philosophy. It would be more like pop psychology than anything else, like the Jordan Peterson kind of approach, right? Or the Dr. Phil. It's very pop. It's something. You don't go take a course in objectivism in college that I'm aware of. If you did, it's just kind of to study why it's not.
Those are really two other people I don't like for like the same reasons.
Which are the people? Oh, Jordan
Dr.
Peterson
Phil and Jordan Peterson.
Yeah, well, I'm not big
actually, I don't have that much. I don't have that much hate for Dr. Phil because I don't come across him very often. Like I did in like around high school because my mom and my sister like loved watching Dr. Phil. And so it would be on in the background while I was doing whatever because they were watching it and I'd look up and just be like, and then just go back to my day. So I wasn't really terribly involved. Jordan Peterson, I just don't.
He's hitting
There's something.
I mean, some things he gets okay.
He has some things. Yes, he has some things that he gets and he gets right, except the things that I find that he tends to be consistently right or like that he's pretty good on are like very, very base, like no shit Sherlock type things. Like so he expounds and, or he kind of like almost bloviates about things that are like he's saying something that's been said 1,000 times in a little bit different way and a little bit fancy, but he comes with a whole lot of baggage that I don't want or like. So I'm like, can we just throw out the entire thing and just get somebody who doesn't have all this extra garbage that is unnecessary, that makes no sense, and just have somebody pushing like, cleaning your room is a good thing.
Make your bed. That's what I'm saying. It's pop psychology, right? Now, I mean, a lot of it is predicated upon some other things, but I mean, it's just disseminated to the masses for I'm not going to say book sales because I don't think Peterson does it for book sales, but that's why it sells. It's the average person.
Well, that's why it's pop. That's why it's considered pop, right?
Right.
It's a matter of presenting something in a way that that a large portion of the population is going to be able to understand when you're potentially talking about something far more complicated.
And you also notice, though, they make a lot of pleas.
It also just creeps me out.
And the worst is that they make a lot of plea to emotional stuff, and worse is they don't like people using terms as they are understood in the fields, like science, philosophy, physics, math. It doesn't matter. They don't want you using these terms because they think these terms are for the elitists. They call them wizards and ivory towers kind of thing, which is a philosophical thing that people call philosophers. But they think that, oh, if you use these words, you're just trying to obfuscate and you're trying to minimize the conversation so other people can't join in. But that's not anything. That's what people are doing. It's like, no, it's for precision. There's a reason why people use scientific terminology in science. Do you want a doctor that doesn't know these terms reading a medical paper that doesn't understand what the hell the medical paper is saying? I don't think that you do. But they do. They don't want people to understand. And they get resentful when you try to explain to people certain concepts. They get angry. They don't want these people to understand these concepts. One, they don't understand themselves, and they hide it. They hide by never having to demonstrate a claim, never having to explain anything, never having to educate anybody, never having to do anything to show they have any proficiency or even a basic level of competency in any of these topics. I have known that. I've seen that with every single one of them so far, I think.
Well, that's why I was thinking that one guy was just obfuscating on purpose or being obtuse on purpose, because what he was saying didn't really make any sense, and he just seemed like he was just circling. And it's like, I don't.
That's how they are.
I don't mind if you want to have a conversation that is. I think the big conversation we're kind of talking about is the 0.99 repeating thing, and I don't mind that people want to ask or try to conceive about what is a number. But when people who study math come in to tell you what a number is, don't get mad at them for it. Like, that's their job. It's what they do. So it's like, it seems very bizarre to me to be upset when this thing that you're trying to conceive and understand, that somebody shows up and has the answer for that thing you're trying to conceive. It's almost like, I just want to ponder. I don't want to have an answer. I just want to pretend I'm thinking about this thing to make me feel like I'm either smarter or deeper than I am. Now, I'm not saying that all of them are like that. This is just a couple of the people that I saw, and that's kind of the indication that I'm getting. That's what they're sounding like. Well, that's what it's a circle jerk. It's the thing that people accuse philosophy of all the time, of just mental masturbation. And it's like, but when there's an answer, because there's years upon years and upon years of philosophy and mathematics to build off of. Every time you start an equation, you don't start by proving that one is real. That's just not how that works. You would never get anywhere.
It almost reminds me of presuppositionalism, right? How do you know what you know? How do you know what you know? It is a gamesmanship type thing. It gets nowhere, and I have no interest in playing those type of games.
It literally infuriates me. How do you know that? How do you know that? How do I know that? I don't have to explain myself to anybody. Screw you. I know it, and I said I know it, and if you don't trust me, then fine.
Dave, do you also notice that presuppositionalists always go back to square one almost in every conversation? It's like they never advance.
It's a script. Right? It's a script.
Yeah, it's a script.
And
it's a script.
I don't even think it goes that far. I think they get lost eventually. And they just talk bullshit after that.
Yeah, that's what I noticed with these objectivists on Twitter. They always go back to the square one, and the reason is, I really do think, is one, they don't understand the topics. Two, they can't explain the topics. Three, they don't want anybody else to learn the topics. And four, they rather, like Chef said, just hang in their little echo chamber of circle jerks and stroke each other off, saying how much they understand things that other people don't. Think they're so intellectually superior. And that's what they complain about other people. It's like, well, you think you're intellectually superior because you know something. No, we think we're intellectually superior merely because we can demonstrate things you can't. And that is a qualification.
You don't even have to go so far as intellectually superior. It's not that it's not that anybody necessarily thinks they're smarter than you. They just think that you're being silly. Those are different things.
We are smarter than them in these areas. I'm sorry, they do not have any. They don't even have basic level competency, and that's fine. I'm inept in a lot of areas. I've said this for many times. Look.
Sure, yeah. If that's what you mean, like then it's not as a person, right? Like it's like I don't think you're unintelligent. Yeah, you're saying that like in this field, I am superior to you because I've studied the field, not because like I'm better than you. It's just I've invested time into this, and you have not invested that time.
That's the equivalency fallacy they make, though. They use that term to, instead of having superior in the field, to superior as a person. They make that transition that doesn't exist, and that's the that's the false argument.
Well,
oh, you think you're superior as a person? Nobody thinks this. But like I said, if
and then they start.
Perhaps you could rephrase it to, I'm not smarter might be an ambiguous word. Just say, I'm more knowledgeable than you in this because I have spent this time studying it.
I would agree with that, Bull, except for the fact that they're looking for someone to say something like that so they can make that equivalence anyway and thus dismiss them based on an emotional reaction because they called me stupid. And then they can say that, oh, you've been insulting me this entire time, you're harassing me, because that's what I saw happen.
It's exactly what happened. That's a script that they do. But like I was saying, if you wanted me, that's bait. If you wanted me to write a tutorial on Krita, I will tell you right now, it would be inept.
So I would say that I am superior to Steve at art.
Absolutely, and I would be like, yes, I'm not offended by this, at all.
Well, it sounds to me like if this is what people are doing, then you've got people with either very large egos or very fragile egos, or both. So it's like, what, somebody can't be better at something than you can? Like, what are you talking about? Of course people can. We're people. Everybody's good at different shit. You can't be good at everything.
If that was the case, then why the hell would we have the Olympics in the first place?
Yeah.
What is even Twitter? Why are you even talking to anybody if you're so great? Resistant Super 50 says this is a super chat. This is a superior chat message.
Yes, it is, Rez. Thank you, my friend. Rez has been very generous lately. Thank you, Rez. But make sure that you're okay too. Because you got to have some money for games, man. But Chester and I have been really appreciative of your support, Rez. We have, it hasn't gone unnoticed. But don't you think that because these people don't have a solid foundation in these topics, that is probably one of the reasons why they don't want anybody else to? Because they do.
Mr. Serious says Chesh could whoop all of us at League of Legends, and we could all whoop Steve at Destiny too.
Can we remove his wrench and block him, please? You want to go into the crucible, mofo? You want to crucible with me? We'll crucible. Yeah, he's probably right. Actually, you're
gonna challenge the cripple guy, Steve.
Yes. I have no qualms about this. I'm a bad man. Bring your pulse rifle, mofo. Bring your pulse rifle.
1v1 me, bro.
I'm not.
I love you guys.
I do gambits, and I am pretty good at gambits. But gambits are a four-man team, and so I'll do gambits later on tonight. I was going to do them yesterday, but I'll do some more gambits tonight. We might get some of the clan together, but if you guys want to play Destiny tonight, we'll play a little on the GDC channel.
Ooh, I could do an art stream tonight. I have 2 things that I need to get done before Christmas, and then you won't be able to see too much of me because I'm going to be out and about and away from the computer.
Get a pulse rifle.
Because I don't like it and don't care.
A fun game. Hey, I'm telling you what, for a free game, now yes, they have the expansions, and yes, you can spend a lot of money with the downloadable content and stuff like that, and the expansion packs. But to play the actual game,
I can be Steven, even though I'm a crippled guy.
Hey, bring your weapon of choice, man. Bring your you see, I use my favorite weapons in Destiny 2. For my primary, I like
Steve's attacking fans.
Yeah, I'm attacking crippled people. That's going to be the narrative. Steve's ableism.
And he's attacking people who are his fans who have been supporting him. He wants to fight them.
So Zamsuka, I tell you what, I bring a Seraph auto rifle, a trace rifle, and a machine gun. Those are going to be my 3 weapons of choice. I'll take your cripple ass out, man. Ableist. Yeah, Destiny is fun. Like I said, for a free game, you can't go wrong. It's a lot of content for free. I mean,
you guys want me the 1v1 Steven League?
Well, they made
kind of pisses me off because I bought Destiny 2 back when it came out, like in 2016. Oh. Yeah. And I spent like $80 on it, and now the whole thing is damn free.
Free now, right? So it's still $80 worth of stuff that 3 years ago would you had to pay for. So all the PvP is free, all the Gambit's free, all the Crucible's free, all the you do have a basic storyline that you can do. You can do all the public events. The weapons are almost the same. I mean, sure they have some other weapons, but as far as like pay to win, no. You could literally. One thing I like about Destiny. Too is you can literally pretty much make any weapon viable. Okay, so it's not like there's a super hardcore weapon that you have to get that everybody has to get. But I mean there are some better than others, but it's all gameplay. If you do your mods right, you could really make any weapon very effective just on your play style. If you want to do a long range, you want to do a short range, you want to be an area of effect. You want to be, have less damage resistance for close up, and so all these parameters you can modify, and it's a hell of a lot of gameplay. I don't know why I'm promoting this.
Sam asked what Twitch channel you were on, and that made me laugh because I'm just imagining Steve trying to be on Twitch.
I was on Twitch.
Hilarious.
Yeah. Speaking of Twitch, isn't that another thing that's supposed to be in the list of stuff that we're supposed to get back? Wasn't there a non-sequitur Twitch channel?
Exactly. Yeah, but
was there a Twitch channel?
Yeah, I think so. Do you know that Periscope is going away on Twitch as of March?
You mean Twitter?
Twitter, yeah. Sorry.
Do you mean
Periscope is going away on Twitter? A different T. I get my T's confused.
Yeah. Geo has a story for us. This is a call-in, by the way. We should probably put the number up so people can call us.
Yeah, let's start calling in. Geostreet will call in.
Geo call in. That would be interesting.
Yeah, why don't you call in and tell us the story, Geostreet?
Well, this is the U.S. contact number for...
Michael, the Canadian atheist, for 10, said, "Happy ho-ho, guys." Thanks.
Well, I could give Geostreet the Meets direct link.
Yeah, you could just give him the Meets link.
Yeah, I will do that. Geostreet, since I love you, man, I'm going to give you the link directly through.
I can beat Steve with one hand because I can only use one hand. I'm so happy.
Oh, so. So wait a minute. He's gonna go with one hand and beat me. Okay, that's probably true. I'm not great at it. I'm okay at it.
This is the new meme, and I'm happy about it. Look, even Puck's here for it. Puck, you here for this? Yeah. You got an eye, Goober. Come here. Here. There you go. You good? You got it figured out?
Yeah. Yep, I already gave it to him. So he can join anytime or call in.
Yes, so feel free to call us and come and hang out, and you can talk games, and you can talk math, or you can talk philosophy, or you can talk about whatever you want, because, it's a call-in show. You tell us what to talk about.
Yeah, pick your thing. And by the way, if you've been following the thing on Twitter, you could call in about that too. We don't care. But Chester's going to lose her mind either way. Might as well just help her do it quickly and get it over with.
It's true. Yeah, I can turn the.
It's true.
It's true. There we go. A little bit more Puck. Because everybody could use a little bit more Puck.
Check the live chat.
Yeah, you guys want to see? Check it out.
Valve needs to make games. Yeah. Well, no, Valve is a pretty good company. I got one of my favorite Valve games is actually Team Fortress 2, which I'll play with people as well. I do like playing an engineer.
Supposedly there's a third Portal game coming out.
There was a third, sort of. There was an unofficial third called Mel.
No, they've been teasing a new one.
Yeah, no, but I mean, there was a whole thing that was created called Mel something or other on Portal. It was very difficult. I couldn't get past even the beginning. It was so hard. You could download it on Steam. On Steam, sorry.
will the number work from the UK? Yes, you'd have to dial it as an international call. There's a page that has all the meets numbers on it, isn't there?
Yes.
Can we make Steve an e-girl?
I have to prove him. Sorry. There we go. Geostreet. Strudel. Geostrudel. I'm going to call him Geostrudel from now on.
That's racist.
Oh, God.
Hello. How are you?
Hi. You guys can hear me, right?
Yes, my friend.
Yes.
Yeah, okay. I recently rearranged all my headset stuff, so no idea whether Windows is recognizing everything.
Mm-hmm. I live that life.
What do you got for us, man?
Actually, not much.
Thought you had a story.
Tell us your story.
Well, I think I told the story before in the side chat, so there was...
Yeah, but
Okay, fair enough. So you guys know that Denmark is currently under lockdown, right? Because the coronavirus numbers are going through the roof, especially here in the capital region around Copenhagen.
Yes.
So we had a bunch of team meetings online. Basically, we're only supposed to work when we're actually doing something in the lab. Otherwise, we're just at home, trying to do as much work as possible from home. So we had a group meeting, and I noticed that one of my colleagues, she had a very, very good webcam. So I asked her after the hangout, hey, you got a very nice webcam, and she said, yeah, I use it for streaming. I was like, oh, that's awesome. What's your Twitch account? She said, what? What's Twitch? That was followed by awkward silence.
What's Twitch?
What's Twitch? Well, did you find out? Like, what does she do? Does she have a channel where she talks about chemistry? Like, what does she do?
I don't know.
Did you find out?
But I have the feeling it's more of a kind of. Well, I don't want to speculate, so let's just keep that one open.
Yeah, you don't assume.
Hello.
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 Hey, this is One More Angel.
Hi, how are you?
Hi, I'm good. I'm just actually calling in to tell you guys happy holidays, happy Hanukkah, Merry Christmas, Merry Yule, happy Kwanzaa.
Happy Kwanzaa, happy Hanukkah. I'm going to try to say it the way my people say it. Happy Hanukkah. And I don't think that's right.
Yeah, I didn't say it right, did I?
I don't know if my Yiddish is terrible. I know very little Hebrew or Yiddish, to say the least. I know Kapela, shot him for the Goyim. I don't know, these.
The war on Christmas continues.
I'm just not a holiday person. I'm not. I'm just not big on holidays, Christmas, birthdays, nothing. And not because I'm Jehovah's Witness or anything like that. It's just I don't really celebrate. I haven't for a very long time. And then I had a friend over the other day, and she brought me a coffee maker, a brand new coffee maker, and 2 things of 3 times super strong caffeinated coffee. And I didn't even make it this morning. I'm actually making instant. I feel bad, but I was like, and I don't, because I don't celebrate Christmas. I'm like, but I was like, this is so nice of you. I bought her lunch, but
well, that was sweet.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for calling in and wishing us happy holidays and all of the holidays.
That's all I wanted to do, and now I'm going to go back to listening.
Oh, okay. Thank you so much.
Holiday too.
All right. Bye.
Geostreet, do they celebrate Christmas in your lands?
Here in Denmark, apparently the rituals are pretty much identical to back home in Germany. So yes, the kind of significant difference that I noticed, or that apparently exists between here and where you guys are in the US/Canada. Is that all the present stuff is actually done on the evening of the 24th.
Oh, the gift is the night before Christmas Eve. Yeah.
My Christmas used to be full of fighting, and that was one of the fights about whether to do things on Christmas Eve or Christmas morning.
We were allowed to open present before, which we ever did kind of do
that was the compromise. That was the compromise, because I was a little shit about it. I was like, oh, hell no, I ain't opening nothing. Nope, I'm waiting until Christmas. You can't make me open presents. What are you going to do, open them in front of me? I'll just leave.
Yeah, I mean, we put up the tree and stuff like that, and you know, we got presents. I remember, I remember my first one was a tape recorder. My dad, because my dad used to work with VCRs and you know, recording media and stuff like that, and I got a tape recorder, and I played with that thing for the longest time. I was just fascinated by it because I was a little kid, but I was fascinated that it would actually record your voice, and I would listen to my voice and hate it, but I was just this is really cool. I got
you guys remember Yak
Steve, that's actually quite normal, Steve. We all hate your voice.
Can we hang up on him now?
Oh, this is Steve said he was in a good relaxed mood. Steve says he's in a good relaxed mood, and we're all just let's shit on him.
Yeah, it's take advantage of Steve in a relaxed mood. Even the cripple kid is picking on me.
There's more than one.
I was talking to.
You've got three. You've got three people in the chat. 3 people in the chat have medical issues and say they can whip your ass, Steve.
The narrative is Steve threatens to shoot cripple with machine gun.
You're trying to tell me to go tweet it out about Steve. I'm don't tempt me. Don't encourage me. Never encourage a goblin.
When a cripple can do a better happy dance for killing you than you can, that's You have to hate that though. You get killed and they just sit there and they teabag thing on you. They teabag you and stuff like that. It doesn't bother me, but it's you got lucky, mofo. You got lucky.
Oh yeah,
I tell you, man, that teabagging is the funniest thing when you kick somebody's ass.
There was there was one of the days when Steve was playing Destiny, and it was one of the early days when you first started playing it. He's sending me messages complaining about teammates. And I'm sitting there playing League of Legends, laughing my ass off, because he's what the fuck is this? I have to rely on, through 2 other people to do shit. I'm bitch, I'm out of 5v5.
Well, there's a crucial match that is 6 by. There's 6 players, and there's a free for all, or you can go in teams 3 for 3. There's a capture the flag type thing. There's elimination. I'm not a big fan of those though. I like the crucibles.
OPT's gonna come get you now.
the gambits, because there's a mixture of PvE and PvP, and I think if you have a really good team that you have the strats, 4-man team could win. A coordinated 4-man team can win almost every time. OPT wants to come.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
They actually there's a so in League they have ranked, right? And ranked is split into 2. It didn't used to be split into 2. It's now split into 2, because before you can play with ranked with friends as long as they're close enough rank to you. If they're too far away, they won't let you because it messes with the matchmaking, because they try and put you against people of the same rank. So what it used to be is anybody can play, and you can play together with however many people. So half the time you would get a group of 5 people against a group of 5 randoms. So that didn't go so well most of the time. So what they did was they added in Flex, and Flex lets you play with 3 or 5 people on a team, and you can't do 4. So there is never going to be one random on a team of 4. So you can play ranked with 1 person in queue or 2 people in queue, or you can play in Flex with 3 people in queue or 5 people in queue. So it ends up changing things up quite a bit. But there's nothing more obnoxious than playing randoms with randoms, and the other team is a fully coordinated team. It's goddamn, you just, okay, fine.
Well, we have the same problem in World of Warcraft. I mean, obviously, when there was a 10-player thing, right? And getting 10 people together is a lot more challenging than people think, right? Because people have lives, and so we have. Oh yeah,
there's also not voice chat in League. They did recently add it. If you're in a group with somebody, you can be in voice chat now. There's an in-game one, but there for the longest time there was no in-game voice chat at all. So you don't get to have in-game. Well, yeah, if you want to make a group call that you can bring your other players in. So like if you are on a team, sure, but if you're not on a team and you're playing like solo, you can send a link out, but people aren't necessarily going to join.
I get what you're saying. So in the I got you. So for the random things, there is now an in game that you can use for the randoms, because like Destiny 2 has a team thing too, but the voice thing doesn't work very well. I don't see people using it.
I don't think you can use it for randoms. You have to be in a team already.
Oh, okay.
You have so if you're league friend, so you're friends with somebody in league, you join a team before you join the queue, and during that time you can use an in-game voice chat if you want to. You don't have to. So once you get into queue, you're not friends with any of those people, and so you're not linked with any of those people via voice chat. So once you're in game, there is no voice chat unless you've set it up with your friend well ahead of time.
Yeah, and by the way, Rez, those 40-man raids, that's a different thing. For a 40-man raid, right, all you need is your set up your tanks, 1 or 2 tanks, 4 or 5 healers, whatever it is, and then anybody else who wants to come along. And so you can have a guild of 100, 200, 300,000 people, and yeah, you can get 40. But when you're PvP and you don't have that many people, and nobody has a set, you're not a tank, you're not a, but you have your healers and your damage. You don't really have tanks per se in PvP, except for your against Warstar Golds, maybe for a flag runner. But yeah, it's still really difficult. And even those 40-mans, people dropped in and out all the time. And what happens when you couldn't find, a tank? Come on. I remember those days. 40-man raid. It used to be too, when you raid a city. Somebody was talking to me on Twitter the other day. I forget who it was, friends with or something, and they're talking about DKs, and not like DK points, but dishonorable kills. And when vanilla WoW first started, you were trying to get your rank in PvP, and if you killed a civilian, it would lower your rank. And people that had spent a week trying to get their rank, one dishonorable kill by anybody in your group, they all get it. It was just to discourage people doing it.
That is ripe. That is ripe for trolling.
Yeah, and so they were trying to solve the problem by not wanting people to grief by killing the NPCs and the opponents in people's towns, the other factions' towns. But then it ended up you could grief people because if you're in a group, you want to screw them over, you just do a DK and all of this gets wiped. So they didn't think that went through too well, I don't think. But anyways, we got the number up again. Not that we're trying to get rid of Geostreet. He can stick around.
He's telling a story in side chat again. You're in the call, dude.
Yeah, well, no, there was something in the side chat coming up that apparently League of Legends is banning people for using Linux.
Apparently they started doing that. I don't know when that started. I never even heard about that, so this might have been before I started playing. I have no idea. To be fair, League has always had it's called Riot Spaghetti Code for a reason. Their coding is fucking spaghetti. So if you tried to run it through Linux, I imagine it would probably.
Well, let's be honest. Wine and especially Steam's Proton are getting better by the day. So I don't really see any reason why League of Legends couldn't run.
Oh, it should be able to. There's not really any excuse for that. The only reason I could think is if this was back in season 2 or early League days and they couldn't handle Linux for some reason. But I mean
it's all emulated anyway. But there shouldn't be any issues why League of Legends is especially problematic in some way, especially considering the very low hardware requirements, which means that emulation wouldn't really need to be that efficient.
Right. Yeah, I don't know. This is the first time I've heard about it, so I have no idea why they would do something like that. The only thing I can think of is spaghetti code. But what do I know? I just play sometimes. I haven't even played ranked in a while.
I've never played a single minute of League of Legends. Never, ever.
I tried it. It's conceptually pretty easy, actually. Conceptually easy. Learning the stuff about it to get good at it, astronomically hard.
Well, if it makes you feel any better, a lot of people are starting new all over again because they changed all of the items and all of the shop stuff, so everything is fucked all over again. Yay!
New anti-cheat system. Yeah, that could be a reason.
I don't know.
Hello.
Hello!
Oh,
I know that voice.
How are you guys doing? Do you?
Good, how are you? Do I?
This is Mr.
You're here to
Serious.
beat up,
yes, of course.
you're here to beat up Steve?
I'm here to beat up Steve. I think, honestly, if I was to punch somebody, it would probably leave me permanently crippled in whatever arm I used to punch them.
So you're
And that
Deku.
would change your current situation. How exactly?
Oh! He's got a point. Make it worth it. Would Steve be worth it?
Oh, I don't think so.
I would be worth you hitting me. Just you know. So you
I mean, a
you
lot
play,
of people would probably... Yeah, go ahead.
I was going to say, you play Destiny 2?
Yes. And it's fun. I played it for free. I didn't spend any money on it.
I mean, I've played with Helios. I played with Anomalous Insect. But I don't think we haven't been in a fire team. So we got to get you in the fire team in the group.
There's something about the way the game plays. I can't put my finger on it now because I remember the reason why I stopped playing it is because like after 45 minutes, my hands would be in such agony, and I don't remember why. I think I had to you have to hold down a button or something like to run or something. I can't remember what it is, but there's just something that I have to do with my hands that is just cramps them all up. So
shift.
I can't remember though.
Yeah, shift is your run. You could remap things on my cord isn't long enough. My mouse has side buttons, and so I've like remapped C, which is your punch, right? I've remapped to a mouse button, and my final, which is G, which is extremely hard, which is probably what you're thinking for the super final. I've mapped to the button right above it, so I could actually just move my thumb like this, hit C and hit G, and it basically will kill my adversary.
You might just wanna consider a more comfortable keyboard instead.
Well, no, I don't think it's that. It's that you have to hit G. You know how hard it is. You're playing using WASD type keys, and then you gotta hit G to do your super final. It's difficult.
Yeah, I would probably just move to the space bar.
I played Doom Eternal on Ultra Nightmare. Yes, I know how hard that is.
Yeah.
I played Destiny 2 on a controller for a while, and to try to alleviate my issues, but it seemed to exacerbate it in different ways. But I have an issue when it comes to like first-person shooters and using a mouse because it's like the harder I try to keep my hand still, the more it wants to like jerk. So I got no precision.
Isn't it kind of cool though? Because we are creatures with 10 digits that we've designed these games around. That we've designed a keyboard that works with a language that works with 10 digits. I mean, can you imagine how an alien would be like? Their technology based upon their physiology, how much different one it must be.
It'd be really funny if they made everything.
Or you get like a cosmetic surgery or something. Elective surgery?
So I know that there is, or at least I saw that they were doing, I absolutely love robotics and cybernetics. That shit is so cool to me, and I want it even though I don't really need it. Like, I want robot eyes that can zoom in like it's the fucking P9000. Like, that's so cool. Of course I would want that. Of course I would want eyes that I can like just flick on and off augmented reality. That I want to play Pokemon. That'd be cool as shit. However, one of the things that I saw is a man who used to be if I'm not mistaken, he was a concert pianist. And he could no longer play the piano because I think it was arthritis. Like he couldn't, or some kind of nerve damage. He couldn't move his hands in the same way anymore. So what'd they get him? Robot hands. So he's got these robots, so he can still move. So he doesn't have to move nearly as much because it's extensions, and it stiffens and holds his fingers in place. So it's not putting the additional pressure on his fingers and onto his hands. It's all the pressure and exertion is going onto the robotics. or onto the engineering, so he can now play piano again, no problem, because it's still the same movements, it's still the same, everything is the same. It's just none of the work or pressure is being done by his hands, the muscles in his hands.
The amount of
so cool.
basically brain connecting to devices that has happened in the last few years is absolutely enormous.
Oh yeah,
like we can kind of we are starting to heal diseases like Parkinson's by just placing electrode in one's brain to stop that that firing of the random firing of the nerves.
Yeah, you don't get the tremor,
right?
Yeah, I can.
The tremor, yeah.
We can actually read minds almost. We actually, and also we can give people back some sense of not full vision, but some sense of electronic stimulus input that they could, see something in reality and then translate it into some type of picture. That's amazing.
Yes,
that actually depends.
Also connect prosthesis from lost limbs to the actual nervous system.
So I mean, can you imagine 1,000 years from now the technology we might have?
We're just gonna Mr. Serious.
Just imagine what we'll see in 20 or 30 years within our lifetime.
Oh, it's gonna be amazing. It's gonna be. I'm so excited. I want robot legs. Not because I need them, but because Cyborg. I want them. Robot legs.
You want to be taller?
No. But it would be nice if they had elevators on them so that I could actually reach the top shelf. So I could have a button and they just go extendo, like Inspector Gadget. So I could.
Mr. Serious, science cannot perform miracles. Okay, so
who wouldn't want to decide how many inches you have at any given point in time? I'm talking about height and about nothing else.
Is there an objective standard for that? So Mark Pellegrino.
Oh my God! You could get an augmentation in your dick that made it a vibrator.
Yeah, there you go, cyborganism.
Whoa!
This is the obfuscation that I'm talking about, Chess. Mark Pellegrino said, "Yes, 0.99 exists in math. 1 exists in life. Thanks." It's like, what the fuck does that even mean? Same number. It's like saying 1/2 exists in math, 0.5 exists in life. They are the same number. I don't understand these conceptual errors that these people are having to try to obfuscate such a simple concept mathematically. I don't.
Okay, this confuses me.
I really don't understand it.
I have a simple question. Does that mean this is what comes down to? Does that mean that some numbers are more real than others? Because that's not what it sounds like.
Well, yeah. Reals are. Complex numbers aren't real. Bath joke.
Yeah,
I got it.
But that's not what I mean, and you know what I mean. What I mean is that
from the conversation.
Stop obfuscating, Steve, with your jokes.
Now I wanted to make a chemistry joke about noble gases, but all the good ones are gone.
What I'm asking is essentially is it the decimal point? What is it about 0.999 repeating that makes it less real or less objective than 1, particularly if they're the same number? Two different words or two different ways of presenting the same number. So does that, because if it's the decimal point, does that mean that 0.25 isn't real, or is 0.25 real? Because that would be a quarter. So what happens to baking if all of a sudden you can't have half of a cup? I'm so confused. I'm so goddamn confused. This makes maybe I'm just stupid and I'm not understanding, but because the only thing that I'm taking from this is that some numbers are real and some numbers are theoretical, but I'm not understanding what the distinction is to make that decision about which ones are and which ones aren't. Does that make sense? That's what I'm not understanding.
I have kind of an idea about what's going on in that whole thread, and it seems like I keep coming back to the same idea in my mind every time, and it always makes me sad. I could be wrong. I could be absolutely wrong. Let me just put that out there. I'm a dumb guy. Dumb guy gonna state his opinion. Yeah, alert.
But here's the thing.
It seems like they find being corrected as an affront.
Yes, they do.
It is an insult that you have come out of nowhere and corrected them. They, for some reason, the only people that are allowed to teach them or correct them are teachers, and they have to be authorities. And you're not that. Who are you? Are you saying you're more important than us? Because somehow they think teachers are more important than them.
No, even then, they think teachers are the upper wizards of the ivory tower kind of stuff. They reject that as well, actually. But like, you know, I'm trying to use very simple logic with like Mark, and because he says we don't need to go. He told me just a few minutes ago. He's like, we don't need to go over the same ground. I know what you mean. I don't think he does. It's not like you're doing a flyby, Steve. I won't repeat my arguments because I know you don't see it that way. But I said what you said just doesn't seem to make any sense. I said, and this is simple logic, right, Gio and Chesh and Mysterious, you guys are all in here, and Dave. Here's my logic. If you agree one exists in life, and 0.999 repeating means one, then 0.99 repeating must exist in life because of transitivity property.
Yes, correct. If
mean,
they're
like
just
saying,
two, okay, this is like, okay, hold on, I got this. I'm getting this. This is like saying one is real, but uno is not.
Yes, I was going to actually use that example. I was actually using apples and Monza.
Cat.
You broke it.
Yay. Yeah, there's a little bit of a jump. Oh.
There we go.
Yay! I don't know where we went. YouTube.
Yeah, it's YouTube.
In any case,
it's got nothing to do with the fact that I use VMix. That stuff.
Are we back?
Yes, we're back.
0.9 repeating is.
When I first heard Steve say that 0.999 equals 1 or repeating equals 1, I that was the first time I'd ever heard it. I've never heard it before that. But then again, I'm layman.
Really? I mean, you get taught that in like 6th grade or whatever when you learn about fractions.
I was taught in America. I didn't learn anything. So.
Oh yeah, I forgot American people.
So yeah, that explains that. So I was very skeptical.
Better, I don't remember going over it
either. And I thought about it, and I didn't really look anything up specifically, but I was thinking about, because I guess I was thinking about how ways to prove it wrong, and I honestly couldn't figure out any. There were more ways to prove it right than there were to prove it wrong. So I just gave up, and I'm like, whatever. Like, Steve's always going to be right, and I will be there one day when Steve's just flat wrong. And I will I'll be getting my evil laugh ready.
But I've corrected on the fly.
Practicing.
I don't sit there and argue things that can be demonstrably wrong, right? If you tell me that 1 + 1 = 3, I'm not going to sit there and argue with you, right? I mean, or x equals x, it does not equal x, right? That is an impossibility. I cannot be wrong that x equals x. It's a metaphysical impossibility to be wrong on that. It is a metaphysical necessity, okay? So you cannot be wrong on that. So if somebody wants to argue that x does not equal x, I'm not going to bother with that. It's ridiculous. By the way, good to see you, that student. You say whole numbers and integers are real, others are not. Well, you forget about rational and irrational numbers too. Rational numbers are real. Irrational numbers are real, right? They're still in R, right?
I think that's kind of more the concept within mathematics. The thing is that we're running into a situation where people are arguing what is real philosophically, and people are talking about mathematic realities. So the problem is if you say that a 0.5 isn't real, well, because you count via an apple, well, what's half of an apple then?
Yeah,
There's 0.5.
I think it's more like this, and I agree. I'm not saying this. I do disagree. I do agree with you, but I think it's more like this. There's this constant. There's the real numbers, right? So the set of real numbers we understand is the continuum, right?
10, yeah.
So when we say real number, we mean it's a subset of the complex number. We mean it is either an integer, it's a whole number, it's a natural number, it's an irrational number, it's a rational number. Those are all real numbers, right? But something like 3i is not a real number. It is a complex number, and all reals are complex, but not all complex obviously are real. So,
but that's not. So when you mean real, it's not talking about reality.
Right. But
it's a different term.
We're looking at a concept, right? So if I say, "Hey, Chess, go out and dig me a hole, and you start digging a hole, right? And I ask you,
I am a door.
Right?
And
does the hole exist? Right? That's
it does now.
But here's the thing: do you want to treat that hole as an object, as something that has existence, or you don't? There's no right or wrong answer on that, by the way. It is how do you want to interpret, does a hole exist, right? This is kind of the basis in some ways of what's called mathematical Platonism. Quine-Putnam's indispensability.
I think there's some holes in some brains.
Well, Quine-Putnam's thesis, the indispensability thesis, is very similar to that. It basically says that if we use these objects in a utility type way, right? If a set is used in mathematics and we have a use for it, right? We should be thinking about it as an actual object. So I treat the whole as an object in that case. Now, I do tend to nominalism in mathematics, but it's irrelevant. Let's say I do tend to mathematical Platonism, which is fine too. That I'd be treating that whole as an object, even though it is the lack of dirt, right? It has existence,
right,
in some, but it's not concrete. It doesn't have a concrete reality.
Well, it's because you're measuring. You can measure the absence of something, right? So you can treat it as an object because you're measuring the radius or like the dimensions, like the depth or the height of said hole, or like you can treat the Earth as a physical sphere that exists, or you can measure a black hole as like what doesn't exist. So you can measure the distance between something. You're not measuring, there's nothing here, but you treat it as if it's something because that allows you to actually make the measurement. It's space. There is space there, so you're measuring that space.
Exactly
guys, I actually have to head out.
Right.
So
thank you.
And we also have another warrior on the mesa.
Gotcha. So real quick, it's funny you mentioned that, Chess, because there's actually in mathematics something called measurement theory. And in measurement theory, that's exactly what it is. The measurement between points is a measurement. And so it's called, there's also Lebesgue measurement, which I butcher his name. But yeah, it's exactly what you're saying. And so, and again, these are conceptual things, but I think you're right. I think maybe, possibly on that thread, they're conflating real as in the real number line and real with an extension, with some kind of existential status to it.
Yes. That's the thing that's happening.
I think so as well, but it's hard to even put my finger on that, because it's very confusing.
Well, it's hard to put your finger on it because there's a handful of people that are being dishonest about it. That's why it's hard to put your finger on it.
I think I have an idea about that. Tell me if I'm off base. I'm totally willing to take, criticism where it comes. But that could be right. Yes, absolutely. I think that is. Well, I think that I don't know that for a fact. I was just thinking that might be the case. But it seems like they are desperate to come out of this somehow on top. Like they can't. This thread cannot end until they are somehow also right. Like you can be right, sure, but they can't be wrong.
That is objectivism. Randians cannot be shown wrong. If they will not acquiesce. They will not acquiesce. They will not show weakness. They will not show that they have epistemic limitations. That is a fundamental thing. It seems to be the case with objectivists.
So we have another caller, so I'm just going to do the super chat and we'll get to the caller. So Godless Scummer for 2 said, sorry, I couldn't send a super chat of 0.9999 repeating. Thank you.
I heard this was the party line and that I should call in and join.
Hi.
Hello, how are you?
I'm good. How are y'all?
Oh, bashing our heads against a wall because apparently we ran into a cult.
Yeah, you know what? It is. I'm telling you, Steve. I hate to use that term. I really do, but I don't know any other word to describe objectivists other than cult. Or at the very least, cult-like mentality. But I think it is a cult. They use words like negativism to mean suppressive person, like Scientology does. If you don't agree with them, you're a suppressive person. They call it negativism, but it is bizarre that these people are so willing to be mathematical denialists, to deny fundamental things of that logic, and yet at the same time think they have some kind of high moral high ground to do so. It is the weirdest thing I've ever seen.
They are 100% in this camp where you're saying this is a mathematical fact. It can't be any other way. And they're saying, no, it's not. because they're not communicating what they're trying to say properly. What they should be saying, yes, in mathematics, that makes sense. However, what I'm talking about is what is considered reality, and we don't agree that a number that is whatever, it constitutes reality. So they accept, it seems to me that they accept that the number 1 or the number 2 or the number 3 is true. It like exists in reality because it is a language, or it is a concept, or it is a tool that we use to recognize something in space, like something that is real, like an object or a whatever. However, I what I don't know and I don't understand is what is the difference between a point. Is pi real? Is it not real because it has a decimal point? It seems that decimal points are the only thing that makes sense to me as to what is constituting whether or not a number it relates directly to something in reality, because they're saying some numbers do and some numbers don't, but I don't know why some numbers do and some numbers don't yet. I haven't figured that part out yet.
No,
math is hard.
I do have some pushback for Steve. I don't think that these people are actually objectivists. So I guess we're going to have to hate each other from now on.
On the next sit down with debunkers / Generation Debunk, Mr. Serious is canceled.
Yeah, so he's tabled. So you don't think they're Randians objectivist?
This is how I take what they're doing. What I take what they're doing is that they're absolutely so desperate to not be wrong that they're willing to take on any position to somehow come out as right at something before the thread's over.
Okay, let me clarify, because there might be an equivocation here. Objectivist here is Randian objectivism. It doesn't mean objective. Like when we say objective or subjective, it doesn't mean that. An objectivist is somebody who holds Ayn Rand's philosophy, which is not philosophy, it's pop psychology. Philosophy of objectivism, which is based upon a virtue. The virtue of Ayn Rand is a selfishness rather than altruism. Just put yourself first, fuck everybody else.
Did you play BioShock? It's BioShock.
BioShock was based on Rand's principles. And it's also based upon the fact that she thinks, or thought, that if you cannot see it, if you cannot observe something in reality to be objectively looking at something, in what would be empiricism, a posteriori, it doesn't exist. I mean, it's just she eliminates rationalism right off the bat. She eliminates any kind of subjective evaluation of anything. She's like, either there's an objective fact and that's it. And we don't have access to these objective facts sometimes. We don't have access to reality directly. We have an indirect perception of it. And a lot of these people that are promoting objectivism have a hard time conceptualizing things. Like I was talking to Ozzy the other day about phenomenalism, and we're talking about the color of realism thing. I was telling him about this group. Yeah, and he was like, colors. Yeah, and we were understanding each other just fine. So it's not. I don't think I have a problem with the vernacular. But he was saying that even a lot of them that he's run into don't understand what even phenomenological even means. They don't understand that there are terms we use in these fields to convey
that word has more than 4 syllables, which means it's not allowed.
They just deny it because they don't understand it, right? And you'll see them talk about color realism. Yeah, but they don't understand what they're. It's like you ask them, okay, well, how do you measure a phenomenon? Well, you measure the wavelength of light. No, you're measuring photonic energy at that point. You're not measuring the phenomenon that's in the mind. And oh God, it's like, it literally is talking like flat earthers, how bizarre it is.
I kind of get a little bit confused.
What?
Go ahead, sorry.
I measure it by the number of mushrooms I ate, but that's neither here nor there.
I mean, that's how you run into colors that don't exist, right? That don't exist, right? So I was having this conversation with Landon over on my channel, and so Landon talked about an experience that he had when he had a really, really bad fever, and he was hallucinating, and he saw a color that doesn't exist. He's never been able to recreate it, and he's never been able to find it. So, and he cannot describe it. But he saw it. So I asked him if some colors are more real than others. So do some only exist in the mind, or do some only exist in under certain circumstances, whereas others are maybe more constant? So if you're measuring radiation, it's going to look a different color based on whatever radiation you're looking at and however long it's been around. And so are those colors maybe more constant than other colors? And so, or is that entirely based on how we perceive the world, based on 3 cornea and sometimes 4? Because there are animals that have, and animals, I'm using that term loosely, don't get mad at me, biology people. There are other living things on the planet that have more than we do. So does that mean that the potential color that Landon saw, I'm not even going to say potential, the color that Landon saw is something that is seen by these other creatures on a regular basis?
Well, there are people that are tetrachromatic that have 4 cones, but you're exactly
4,
right.
yeah, 3 or 4.
Yeah, can you imagine a person who is red-green colorblind, right? They've never been able to distinguish between the two, right? Let's say they can't see the color red. The color red does not exist to them, okay? Their whole lives they go through that. All of a sudden, they fix whatever is wrong in the brain, and they could see red now. How do they describe that? How do you describe any color? But you're like, I'm seeing a color that doesn't exist. Well, like I know that it exists. I've seen red. All right, but I again exist in the mind. These are all. I think all colors are phenomenological. I do.
There exists a wavelength of light that when you see it, you associate it with the word red.
Yeah, and our brains do that. Now, what we
our brains are the thing that do that. Yes.
What I perceive as red.
The only reason I perceive it as red, though, is because someone else, when we were looking at it, when I didn't know it was red, said that's red.
Yeah.
Well, that's a label, right? So you can describe it whatever. So
it exists in our mind, though. That's the point.
But here's the difference. Like a circle, right? I can say I see a round object, and I'm going to call that a circle. Jess can see the same object, and she'll call it a circle, right? It's round. You can objectively measure that it's round, even though she's seeing the image in her mind, and it seems to correlate with something in objective reality, right? Red is not. There's no correspondence of red in objective reality. There's nothing to correspond it to. That's the problem, because it's phenomenological only.
Like a data set, like in computers and ASCII codes and stuff like that. It's been quantified.
No, it's not. The phenomenon itself is not quantified. You cannot quantify an idea. It's like saying how many blank are in
a computer can see it. A computer doesn't have imagination or mind. It can see it.
See the image. The computer doesn't see the phenomenological image.
It's a difference between, okay, so essentially what I think what Steve is trying to say, and I'll see if I can kind of bridge this here because I think it's just a bridge. A circle is geometric. There is a physical thing that is this circle. There isn't a physical thing that is red that you can base this red off of. The only thing that we can use to base the color red is other people also perceiving it as the color red and recognizing that it's the same thing. And so because that's the only thing we have to base this off of is other people's minds. But I don't need anybody else to tell me that that thing is a circle, right? There is, or even that there is.
I don't look at it that way at all. No? If I want to know something's red, I'll get my color picker. That's how I figure it out.
Okay.
Yeah, but the color picker only exists because we made it. It's an invention.
Right. But it's not being changed. It's set. It's set now.
But the image, okay. There's something. Have you ever heard of what's called the difference between direct realism and indirect realism?
Nope.
Okay. All right. So direct realism would mean that we see reality for what it is. Okay. We have a direct relationship to it's called naive realism. Indirect would mean we basically are looking at an image in our brain, right? We don't see reality. What we see is an image in our brain called a consciousness, and that's what we're perceiving. Everything else is off limits to us. We are filtered. There's a filtering system because we're biologically hardwired, right? But what we're actually perceiving is not directly what we're seeing. The reality could all go away. We can still perceive something, right? But we're not perceiving what reality is, right? Or we're just seeing something in our minds. I see an image in my mind. Now, what happens is called causal theory. Causal theory is when I see something like, let's say my cup here, it causes my brain to see something. So there's an
okay, well, actually, hold on.
There's a cup.
Before we move on, you can, before we move on, hold your cup up for a second, Steve.
Wait. Okay.
Yeah, exactly. Hold your cup up. That is based on what I can see right now. Steve himself is what is giving that shape, and I can recognize a cylinder even though I can't see it. But that cup is the color green, but you can't see it. The computer is processing it and telling you that it is the color green, but you can't see it. So if green was objective and real, you wouldn't be able to do that with a computer.
It's called
you can. It's called chroma key. The color realizes it's green and maps it out.
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly.
It doesn't see the phenomenon of green, just like an illusion, right? An illusion is in the mind. You agree that illusionary does not exist in reality. It exists only in the mind.
I don't know. I don't know if I believe. I think the problem is I'm not sure if there is like a phenomenon. There's just a light of one color hitting a thing and then making a different color. It hits your eyes. It'll hit a computer sensor, whatever. It'll do it. All does the same thing.
But you agree that illusions happen, right? You can see an illusion, correct?
Sure. Brains are stupid. You see them all the time.
So that illusion is phenomenological, right? There's nothing to measure about that illusion. It has no reality. There's no concreteness to it. You cannot measure an illusion because there's nothing there to measure. It's phenomenological only. It only exists in the mind.
Maybe it's see. I'm not using color as anything mental. I'm just using it as a light of some type hitting a surface of some type and it bouncing off and like making us like allowing us and machines to see it. I don't think it needs to get any more complicated than that.
Well, it is because you're confusing, you're equivocating. We're talking about the color as a phenomenon, not color as a measurement of an energy level of a photon. Yes, we agree that a computer or scientific equipment can measure the energy level of the photon, but unless it has a mind, unless it has a consciousness, it cannot see the color red. It cannot have that image in a mind without a mind existing.
So I'll put it this way. Maybe I can explain this a little differently. If nobody observes the rock, is the rock there?
Yes. That's called object permanence.
Yes. What color is the rock if nobody's there to look at it?
I mean, you're talking about nothing. I mean, because there's color specifically could have lots of different connotations. Like it absorbs differently in places. There could be a giant rock that's reflecting light onto a planet that might somehow have, consequences millions of years down the line. Just because we don't see it doesn't mean something's not happening. It's hard to say.
But there's no
hold on. That's the light doing that. That's not the color doing that. That's the light doing that.
Some colors absorb better than others.
But no. You're confusing the reflectivity and
that's the object doing that.
Yeah, the object. Yeah. The object itself. I don't think a property exists of color. These are called. I don't know if you've ever heard of the color. You might want to check it out. It's called problem of universals.
I think the object is part of color.
No, the object has certain properties. Okay, shape is a property.
No, you got
right.
You have a color of an object and the light bouncing off of it. That's its color. Like that, you've mixed those two, you get the color.
But it doesn't actually exist. There's no color of the object. The object is there's also what's called Objectivism, where you see a color and you're projecting your mind thing onto the cup. Objectivism.
So hold on, because I want to touch. Okay, well, hold on for a second, because what you said was there can be different results based on that color. I think that might actually be backwards, right? So different things happen, therefore it is a different color, not it's a different color, therefore things happen. Does that make sense?
Well, the color I see is it's color in that moment.
So if I take two different balloons, right? And they're different colored balloons. So this one is blue and this one is red. the balloons exist whether I do or not, right? There are balloons there, so there's light refracting off those balloons, and the light is then refracting and then doing whatever it's going to do that could change something millions of years down the line. We can then look backwards and tell what color those balloons are, but if I change the color of the balloon, the result is based on us observing and then assigning a color, not whatever color the balloon was. Right, so it's the other way around. So the rock the rock that exists is going to reflect however it's going to reflect. We are then going to be able to go back and recognize maybe what color it was, but without us doing that, whatever happens still happens. But the color is irrelevant because the color is the only thing. We're only using it to recognize something. Are you doing the super chat?
That's really good. Real quick, I got a better analogy. Ms. Sirius, pain. Pain only exists in the mind. There's no objective reality of pain. It's a sensory thing that we feel as experiential, right? Pain. So, can a computer feel pain?
No.
Then it can't experience red for the same reasons. It's experiential only.
But you can measure pain. A computer could measure pain, and a computer could. You could assign. Right. You could assign
things to say, okay, but that's a relationship. Like what is
well,
your
it's the same thing with color, though.
But
right, it's the same thing as color. So
that's what I'm saying. There's no objective thing with pain, except there's an objective fact to be had that you're experiencing it. There's something.
This has gotten so fascinating.
I hate to interrupt this.
We got another person.
We've had another person for quite some time. I'm sorry to keep you waiting.
Let me wrap this up. I swear, and we'll get to them in 10 seconds. An incorrigible belief, like pain, means that it's true by virtue that you experience it. And so there is an objective fact that you experience pain, but what degree of pain is subjective. Same thing with red. There's no objective. We
also assign color to pain. And if we had and type of pain. And also, if you were to get everybody together to agree on a level, if you were to take a chart and be like, okay, I'm going to do this to you and take a number, and I'm going to do this to you and take a number, you could assign that pain number. You could then give that pain to other people through hooking them up through whatever, and you'd be able to then measure it. A computer would be able to measure it based on either brainwaves or based on whatever input you were able to get from the people that you did the pain to. Right. So in which case you would actually theoretically you could. I mean by theoretically I mean we're not going to do it because that would probably be considered inhumane because you'd have to be like this person is going through hypothermia and we're going to watch their brain waves and we're going to do this to 200 people so we can get a number that we can put at each level of hypothermia. We're not going to do that because that would be considered unethical. But you could do that and then you could assign a label to it like a color, which we do, and then everybody could agree that this level of pain is this thing, and it would be objective in the exact same way the color red is objective, because it's based on agreement, not based on something that is objective. Kawasifer 5 also said the Randian superhero would be Rorschach from The Watchmen, a non-compromising absolute belief in a objective moral, no such thing as gray.
Yeah, agreed.
Would the color red absorb more light than the color white?
I don't know what that means.
It's the object doing the absorption. Yeah. The amount of absorption is based on the object, and then we assign it a color afterwards.
Do we? I think it's all collectively together. I don't think it's different. I don't see the difference. I don't know where the separator is.
We'll come back to it. We gotta see who we've got.
Okay.
Hello?
Hello?
Hello? Are you talking to me?
Yes.
Yes, hello, who's there?
Oh,
hello?
Hi. This is Brady.
Hi, Brady, how are you?
Good. Hey, sometimes I wasn't sure if my phone's still on mute or not, but...
Oh, that happens.
Yeah, hey, that's amazing. I didn't realize that the call-in just could drop you right into the show like that. You know,
Surprise!
I thought I would have to go through some, gates or whatever.
No, we're not that professional yet.
I've wanted to call in for quite a while. Most of the things Steve talks about are things that I have some kind of direct connection to. So yeah. I feel a little bit bad. I've only contributed one time, and the text that I wrote down was kind of a long joke, and at first it looks a little bit cruel, and I never got to hear what Steve actually thought about that. Like, it was the very end of the show, and he ended it. And so I was a little bit like, oh, gee, I hope he didn't see that and decide he kind of wanted to end, it probably not, but,
Well, what was it? Let us know.
What was it?
Let's see if we can get him to answer.
What's that? I made a joke about, like, I'm really glad Kyle finally gave you the boot, because, I'll enjoy watching you better without him. It was like at first I phrased it like, I'm glad he finally got rid of you.
I don't
know that's funny.
So yeah, no problem there.
You hurt his feelings at the end of the show.
Hey, look, I only gave 5% to the show, but that 5% was pretty good, I thought. And Bull was 0. Mathematically, 95 plus 5 is 100, is it not? So we don't know what the hell Bull did, apparently.
Yeah. I was tempted to butt in there for, a second ago, because it's like, yeah, what you're talking about is a computer can measure light, but it can't have the experience of color the way we experience color,
Correct.
It can experience a rock pretty easily. You can throw a rock through a computer.
Yeah, I'm not saying there's
I'm
right
gonna
or wrong. And I'm not saying there's anything right or wrong. Oh, you got to go, Moon?
Yeah, I'm working, but I wanted to crash the party for a few minutes just to say hi and tell y'all I love you. The usual.
Well, thanks. You have a good day. Enjoy work. Hopefully it's not too bad and you enjoy your holiday. Bye.
I am working and packing to move. It is the best time of my life, let me tell you. So,
moving is so exciting now. Bye.
Bye, y'all.
She's advocating for throwing atheists at computers. Yes.
Why not? Mark was just like, I was like, doing what I'm trying to explain to him. One half is equal to 0.5, right? He's like, well, yeah, but is there 0.5 repeating decimals after that? An infinite number of repeating fives? I'm like, no, there's an infinite number of repeating zeros, right? I mean,
yes.
0.5 is 0.50000 ad infinitum. That's the same number.
Forever.
I don't know why this is so complicated.
So it's oh my god, it's not the decimal point, it's the repeating. It's the infinity at the end of the number, end of the never-ending number that they're hung up on. So they don't understand infinity?
I don't think they understand a lot of these. Well, that guy PVN, I finally end up blocking. I just can't deal with him. But I'll still point out when he's wrong.
Now I don't have to look at him.
Yeah. Okay, so I don't want to get too deep in the math, but it's kind of hard not to. But he does understand infinities, right? He looks at Cantor's like diagonal proof or something. He looks at what's called degrees or orders of infinity. These are called cardinalities. So there are different degrees of infinity. One infinity may not be the same as another infinity. That's a fact. And these are called, like, alpha null is the lowest amount of infinity you can have. The smallest set of infinity is called alpha null, or alpha zero, which is going to be the real numbers. Okay, so he thinks, because he misunderstands the concept, that if you have infinity and you subtract 1 from that infinity, it becomes a different cardinality. It becomes a different degree of infinity. No, that is not how it works.
How can you possibly have a different degree of infinity?
Well, you can. You can have higher degrees of infinity. It's really, like I said, it's what's called...
You can't really subtract 1 from it, though.
Well, let's have abusive notation. The rule of thumb is this. 2 things. 1, any finite process to an infinite set the set remains infinite. So I have an infinite set, and I take a billion away from it. I still have an infinity number of elements. That's how sets work. Also, though, you cannot use infinity with binary operators. Okay, so in math, you can't say infinity minus 1. Okay, that just makes no sense mathematically. There is what's called abusive notation, where if you're trying to heuristically try to relate a concept, then you'll find people saying, okay, infinity minus 1, to just show that you know anything you do to a finite process to an infinite set, the set remains infinite. That's how it's basically used. Okay, but technically speaking, you cannot, like you said, subtract anything from infinity mathematically as a binary operator. You can move elements from a set, but he misunderstands this. He thinks that if you take elements out of an infinite set, it becomes a different order of infinity, which is not the case. A different order of infinity is what's called a cardinality numbers. Okay, so those are counting numbers, and those numbers only exist for infinite numbers. Well, okay, I shouldn't say that. Infinite numbers are a type of cardinality. So the infinite number alpha null is the first of the infinite numbers.
It's it's a countable infinity, basically, versus an uncountable
infinity.
Right, versus an uncountable one, like the number of reals between 0 and 1.
It's uncountable.
We got a super chat from Exploratory Minds for 10 that says, simply put, I say perception of a color or any aspect of reality cannot be an accurate representation of reality. It's more to do with how we evolve to respond to sensory input for biological survival. Fair point.
Yeah.
Fair point. Because the thing is, what it comes down to is, do colors count as real because we experience them? Because again, keep in mind that if red is just a wavelength, and red is what we use to identify that wavelength, does it make it not real? Because now you're talking about the difference between what we would consider real in physics and what we would consider real in philosophy versus what you might consider real based on experience. You don't necessarily experience red the same way you experience walking into a wall, if you know what I mean.
Yeah. And I want to point out though, so if people have it on the record here, since alpha null is the first of the cardinal numbers, if you have a set that has a cardinality higher than the natural numbers, because that's what it means to be countable, it has a bijection, a one-to-one correspondence with the natural numbers. If you have a cardinality higher than the natural numbers, then it's called an uncountable set. So that's
Money's going to kill us.
Money's
going to kill us for having this conversation better.
You really have no choice when we're talking about these topics, though. This is the funniest thing. They don't understand these concepts. Like Icarus says, do you even Hilbert's Hotel? I tried to explain that to PVN too. Go look up Hilbert's Paradox of the Grand Hotel. He doesn't understand it. Because he doesn't understand if you're 0.9 repeating and you shift it 1 by times it by 10, you still have an infinite number of 9s. You think you lose 1 9 of that infinite set. It's like, oh, it's a really epistemically bad concept.
Somebody who goes by John makes an interesting point. They said, yeah, most materialists can't comprehend anything that's not directly observable. It actually makes a good point. Are these people actually objectivists or are they materialists? Or both?
Well, I see them kind of distinctly different. I'm not a materialist, so I don't know. At best, I'd be maybe tend to source physicalism, maybe, but I'm not a materialist. I think there's things out there like fields and other things. Although technically fields can be put in materialism called physicalism, but I just don't
Money showed up. Philosopher 5 said, yep. Philosopher 5 said, is it any wonder Rand and her worshippers just absolutely hate Plato and the cave, LOL.
Plato's cave is a really good analogy. I mean, you know, but yeah.
Well, you measure the size of a cave based on the absence of stuff in the cave.
Yeah. Well,
I think
it's pop science, pop psychology that they use, and they try to put it off as philosophy, and it's not.
I think I might have found. I think I might have found like where maybe we don't agree on definitions when it comes to color, and maybe I could try to explain it.
Oh yeah, please, because people use different words for things.
Ever since I started taking like medication, like for my anxiety, my brain went it flipped upside down. Like, I don't even know if anything I did before could be considered reality. The much crap that was like the toxic nonsense that was going on in my brain. Since then, I guess that my theme is just brains are dumb. Like, whatever. Like, I look at this thing on my screen, I see the call in button. I mean, I would say it looks to me that it's red. Is it red? I don't know. I could be colorblind. I have no idea. So when I think of color, I just think of what the wavelength, frequency, and energy level that it takes to represent what we have defined as said color within our visual spectrum. And whether or not whatever I see is irrelevant. I could be way wrong. That could be green. I just have to teach myself to call it green. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what I see. All that matters is the wavelength, frequency, and energy level.
It's consistent. So a computer can change that. Right? So you could color shift that green using a computer by changing the output of your screen, right?
Right. That would change the wavelength, frequency, and energy of it.
That's coming out of your screen. So you're not actually changing the object. You're not changing the thing because there is no thing there. Most stuff that a computer does is not physical stuff. So like you're seeing me and my chairs and my dog, but you're not actually seeing me and my chairs and my dog. You're seeing the output of a computer trying to taking an input, then re-rendering it back towards you after like a good number of steps. So realistically, because I could shift the color of whatever I want, these headphones might not be orange to you, or they could be perceived as a completely different color. So for really good example, if I pull up a picture, I'm going to move this here. If I pull up the painting I did recently that I posted on Twitter, if I pull it up on here, I guarantee you it will show completely differently off of this than it does on the screen.
Yeah, probably.
Because this is calibrated.
Because of the limitations of their ability to represent each pixel as the wavelength, frequency, and energy.
Well, it's calibration. So both of these screens are able to do the same thing. It's just this one is calibrated differently than this one is. So depending on the calibration of your screen. So there is no, in any of this, there's absolutely zero, any painting that I've done digitally, there is no physical object to base that color off of. It's all based on whatever setting I have set up here. Because if you were to pull that, color pick it, it would come up a different color there than it would here. So there is no physical object. There is nothing that is real about it, right?
Well, it is a screen that is lighting up like electrons, like the same way as if like light was bouncing off of an object. Like it's
sure, but the whole thing is fabricated.
The tablet itself has to understand the color that it's trying to indicate to you. So it has to have some kind of built-in understanding of what it's trying to show you.
Except that that's completely arbitrary. I can change that at the drop of a hat.
Right. That those 8 bits.
Whatever you change it to, it will understand.
That value between 0 and 255 for the red set of pixels is just
right. So because
arbitrary. It's an intensity of red. That's all it is.
Right, and so you may not know.
Every time.
But you may not, yes, but what we assign it, and the fact that those are a thing, don't necessarily, we call it a color, but it's not the same thing as, like, the tablet itself. I can pick this tablet up and I can mail it to you. I can give you this tablet and you can hold it in your hands. I can't do that. It sounds like more of a
failure of language.
No, it's not semantic. No, I disagree. It's completely not semantic or failure language.
I mean, if I could plug my brain into one of your brains, you would understand exactly what I'm seeing, but we can't describe it with our words because it's impossible.
Sure, but at the same time, I'm probably not seeing the same color you are. Yeah. Right?
You're not experiencing it the same way.
I wear glasses.
Not unless I plug my brain into yours, you would never be able to know what I experience. That's why when I take these subjective things and I just kind of don't use them when I try to talk about things.
No, exactly. That's why it's subjective and not objective. If there's a wall there and you walk into that wall, and then I walk into that wall, no matter who's walking into it, somebody is hitting that wall. But if I try and tell you what color that wall is, different people might give you different answers. Does that make sense?
The range of the visual spectrum isn't all that subjective.
No. Again, I think you're looking at it from a really wrong perspective here. If I look at a cloud and I see an elephant in the cloud, is it objectively? Is there a case that there's an image of an elephant in the cloud? No, it's my subjective opinion. Correct? It's my subjectivity. Right. There's no objective fact to the matter they had. It is a phenomenological thing. There's no way to actually say there's a image of a elephant in the cloud. Same thing with pictures. Pictures, if you want to look, again, there's no right or wrong here, but you can look at a picture and say, well, does the picture exist? Well, there's a frame, there's something in it that shows something, but it's just a scattering of paint. It's just a way that paints what's called primitives are arranged. Right? Mirological nihilism, the same thing. Does a table exist? Well, it's just an arrangement of atoms. It's just a shape that's formed by the arrangement form of atoms. Does the object exist? We treat it as an object. We say the table exists, even though it's just an arrangement of something. Right? That's how philosophy works. Do we describe it as an
Well, it's because we identify it and label it that way. Resistances for 10 said, someone as dumb as me can figure out that 0.9 repeating equals 1, but what bent my mind into a pretzel is that 0 to the power of 0 equals 1, surprised Pikachu face. And then Golden Unicorn, whoop, for 2 said, we're always stuck in the past, ... hee hee. And then Kawasa, because that also is relative to color, because the time of day will matter. Kawasa for 5 says, can we perhaps compare this situation with Steve's "we can't really touch anything" bit?
Yeah, well, we don't really touch anything, right? I mean, that we don't have indirect touching. What we feel is a repulsion, right? But 0 raised to the 0 power is merely
that's why you can't really feel your fingers.
Yeah, anything raised to the 0 power is 1, right? So x raised to the 1 is 1, regardless of what x is, even 0. So that's why that works out. Now, you have to be really careful when working with zeros, though, because people will be like, well, what is 1 divided by 0? Well, that's undefined for the rationals. So you cannot do it. It's an illegal operation, right? Now, in other forms of math, you can do it. There's something called complex infinity, which you can actually say is a number. It's a complex number. But you're exactly right. 0 raised to the 0 power, 1. And 0 factorial, 1, right? I still think that's more by definition, but there is proofs for it. I think it's easier to think.
I heard another person come in. Hello. Feel free to jump in, by the way.
Yeah, we're just.
All right, I'm going to get out of here. I thank you for talking with me. I see, I don't know. Well, we can talk about it later. I don't know where we're separated. I don't know. Maybe it's just I don't like this subjective stuff. Who knows? But I'm out of here. Thank you very much for talking with me.
Have a good day. Bye.
Merry Christmas.
Have a good holiday. Yeah, who's in here? Hello. Who are you? What's up?
Hello, this is John from America. Can you hear me?
Oh, hi.
Yes, hey, John from America.
Hey, I came across your live stream and I thought it was pretty interesting. I was wondering how long have you started thinking about this concept of, I'm not even sure what you're talking about here, reality being subjective or the fact that there are things in our reality that are subjective that are not, like, what exactly is your...
Let's clarify what we mean by this, because again, I think there's a lot of confusion on the terminology. When we use objective, think about it this way. All objective here is that I can look at something, you can look at something, and we can come to the conclusion independently of each other with no subjectivity and bias or mind required. Now, yes, you can say a mind's required to think. That's not what it means. But I don't have to go to anybody else to verify that a circle is round, right? Or a triangle has 3 sides. I can know that a priori, that the triangle has 3 sides by definition, right? I don't have to observe anything for that. There's no subjectivity involved that a triangle has 3 sides, right? But when we're talking about a phenomenon, a pain is subjective. I can experience my pain. Chesh cannot experience my pain. It is epistemically off limits to her. That is subjectivity. So my pain is subjective, but it is an objective fact that I'm experiencing pain, right? Because they can measure and see that I'm seeing pain. She can see that I'm seeing pain. So that's an objective fact that I'm seeing pain, right? And by the way, you don't even have to measure it. Even if it's not measurable, if I'm experiencing pain, I'm experiencing pain, and pain is real, right? It's called an incorrigible belief. If you believe you're experiencing pain, whether it's measurable or not, you're experiencing pain, period. But that's what we mean by objective.
I agree. Hey, I agree. I follow. I couldn't comprehend the concepts. I was just wondering, what exactly are you proposing here? Because I have argued this fact with a couple of atheists, right? The fact that reality is subjective, but I'm not sure if that's exactly what you're saying here. I had some examples too, and I wanted to ask you what you think about them, because it's pretty mind-boggling how. I mean, you know how. Okay, but first, the first question was, what exactly what are you I'm not trying to say what are you pushing, but I'm trying to ask, like, what is your ideology? You're just saying that we are subjectivity is a real thing, or because I was saying that this whole reality is subjective. I don't know exactly what you.
I believe there's an objective reality to be had. I just don't think that we can ever know what that objective reality is. We don't see reality directly, so we have a perception of it, right? But what objective reality is, other than a priori knowledge like logic and math, that we can know. But a lot of other things, we have to have a theory of what knowledge consists of, right? Do I know that I have a cup here? Yes. But why? Because I have a theory of knowledge that allows me to, called justified true belief. But epistemically speaking, right, I have to assume there's a reality to begin with, right? That's my precept that reality exists, which is my axiomatic base level, what's called properly basic belief. Then I build upon those axioms that reality exists, which is one of the fundamental tenets in science. Science's first three basic fundamentals is: 1, reality exists; 2, we can observe reality; and 3, we can draw inference and make modeling of reality. Those are 3 basic tenets of science. It's not just philosophy. And by the way, when people say science and philosophy have nothing in common, or they try to exclude each other from it, it's ridiculous, because again, the 3 axioms of philosophy are based upon philosophy, that we have a universe which is assumed. 2, we can observe it, and we can draw inference. So, yeah, I do think there's a
and to be fair, though, those things are assumed, and the reason they're assumed is because they have to be. We don't have any other choice but to assume those things to be able to make any forward progress. So, unless you're not looking for doing any kind of forward progress, then you can't necessarily even know that, because then you start getting into solipsism. But I'm starting to just think that all of reality is just math, and it's all just some kind of number somewhere, and we just may or may not know what parts of that big end of the day number is, because it'll be many numbers based on many, many different variables and many, many different things. And listen, I do art. I can't say I'm a fan of this.
I have this question for both of y'all. Have y'all heard of this phenomenon where you can there's a word, it's a toy that repeats the word, and it says green needle basically, and there's a phenomenon where you can make it say by thinking it, you can change the toy from saying green needle to brainstorm. And
it's like the spinning dancer, that you can make it spin either way depending on.
Oh yeah, that's cool. That spinning dancer is an illusion thing. Yeah.
So it's the same thing.
I don't understand. I don't understand. Dang it! Sorry, go to kick off.
And the Yanni versus Laurel illusion as well.
That's because your hearing goes away when you get older, right? But like the subway thing is illusion, where you see the subway going, and then if you look at it again, it goes the other way.
Yeah. Well, this is what I'm saying. I'm not sure it's an illusion, because literally there's if you know about syllables, I'm not sure how we are adding an extra syllable. We're just imagining an extra syllable. Brain.
Well, no, we're not imagining. No. The Yanni thing is not imagining. we hear there's actually a thing being said, but the higher range hearing, we have a loss when we get older, so we're not hearing that part of it.
They're not talking about that one though, Steve. They're talking about the one they brought up, which is you can use your, basically depending on how you process the syllables that you're hearing, you can make your brain hear different things. So it's a different.
The Yanni and Laura one is still is kind of in the same category, because literally I'm the same age, and I heard the Yanni and Laurel. I heard it both ways, and when I heard it say Yanni, it said it as a guy, and then I heard it say Laurel. It said Laurel in a girl's voice. I don't know how. I don't know how.
It's a mixture of. It's a mixture of audio, So your brain can pick up kind of either side of that, the kind of garble of audio together,
Yeah, I feel like that's a materialist. I feel like that is a really materialist perspective, where they're like, oh, it's just because your brain's perceiving it a certain way.
That's just the way audio works. If you listen to the audio, there's enough different frequencies in there that you have enough of that material for your brain to pick up either one of those words, depending on how you think about it. Or, I've seen a number of different kind of illusions like that. It just depends on how you look at it, how you interpret it.
That doesn't apply to everything. Like I'm saying right now, green. If I just say green, you thinking blue, it's not going to make you literally hear me saying blue. You're just going to hear me saying green. But there's specific things that in my head don't make sense at all, and it's kind of like chaotic.
So I think that might have to be expectation. So we see this pretty regularly, particularly on Twitter, where people will read, or if people are having an argument, somebody will say something and they'll read or hear something that wasn't actually said. That happens all the goddamn time. It's incredibly frustrating sometimes when you're trying to have that.
You're talking about people misinterpreting, right?
Well, not entirely. What I'm saying is it's not a matter of misinterpretation of like the whole sentence. It's the fact that they didn't hear the second half of the sentence, or that they heard it and heard something else. So their brain, because there's an expectation of what's going to be said or is being said on the whole, is assuming, or it starts putting in words that aren't there. So let's say you were to play a song, and I played you. It's a song that you're familiar with, but maybe you don't know it that well. And I play with you a couple lines of that song. You may be able to fill in the blank. You might anticipate what is going to be said in that song, whether you know it or not, and you may or may not be correct. But your brain is already filling in the gaps. It's like if I play the piano and I play do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, and then don't hit do again. It can throw you right off your game, because you're so used to the rhythm, you're so used to what you're expecting to hear, and it feels like it's just dropped off, right? So and it feels wrong.
John, I know. By the way, I know what you're talking about. You're talking about the McGurk effect, right? That's what you're referring to.
I looked it up.
Yeah, it's called the McGurk effect. There's videos on it. It's very fascinating. If you go because you hear a sounds, and your brain is processing different with the lips, right? That's called the McGurk effect.
No. That's not what I'm referring to.
Okay, well, the other one, hang on. The other one is what she's talking about is called the mondegreen. Is when you hear a song and you're misrepresenting it, you mishear it because, like you said, you think you're going to hear something and you don't remember it correctly and you don't hear it correctly. That's called a mondegreen. But I had not heard of the green needle thing. I guess that's the
I was going to ask you.
That I have.
I'm going to take off.
I do know what the McGurk effect is, but I haven't.
I was going to take off. Dang it! Yeah, if you could look it up, I would appreciate it.
Yeah, let me listen to it.
You can make it safe.
I like new things, and I admit when I've never heard of something before. So I've never heard of this. Let me hear it for just 1 second. Just quiet.
Okay.
Quiet. And I'll tell you what I hear. Green needle.
No, say brainstorm.
Yeah. See. Well. See. I hear green needle, and again, nobody told me what it actually is. This is brand new because I have not even looked it up yet, except for the video I've just pulled up. I hear green needle. What do you?
But now Steve is going into it though, already aware.
You brainstorm. Can you hear brainstorm if you think it?
I could rewind it and check.
Yeah. Try it.
Well, that's part of the thing.
1 second. Yeah. Now that I'm thinking brainstorm, I can hear brainstorm.
Okay, so now my question to you is, well, real quick, I want to ask you a question. Now my question to you is green needle. That's 3 syllables. Green needle. Now, if you say brainstorm, that's 2 syllables. How is our brain somehow putting in an extra syllable?
If I remember correctly, just based off of memory, it's kind of like that knee sound happens at the same time of like the hiss of the essence storm, like the storm. You know,
I would have to talk to a linguist, but I think you're right.
Hell yeah. Syllables are a little bit. Syllables aren't really
in the same realm of subjectivity, where literally words can be perceived as differently just by how we have in our mind.
Is there an objective thing, what somebody actually said? I mean, is there an objective thing, or is there a computer generated that sounds that way?
That's a computer generated thing.
Okay, computer generated. So there really is no objective thing. If I say green needle and somebody hears it as brainstorm, there's still an objective thing that I said green needle, right? But whatever. But yeah, no, that's interesting. I have not seen it before, so thank you for that.
There's also a thing with syllables. Syllables are kind of bendable. So the way syllables work in English is that they go with the vowel. Syllable, right? It goes with whatever the vowel the vowel is. So brainstorm is only 2, but green needle is 3. But that's because we're counting out counting out the vowel. I didn't finish what I was saying.
Brainstorm and green needle sound completely different, though. That's the thing. Brainstorm and green needle don't even sound similar at all. Like Yanni and Laura, I guess somehow.
So, I don't know. for example, dogs don't. There's been a couple of studies done. If I'm not mistaken, there was a recent one that came out that it sort of is talking about the amount of vernacular a dog can understand and why it may be limited. And one of the reasons they're proposing is that dog is not able to recognize certain syllables. So they're not able to or certain sounds. So if I say dig or I say dog, the dog doesn't understand, cannot hear the difference between dig and dog. They're too close together. Yeah. Right? So there's a cadence to the way you say something. So you can, Eminem is a really good example of this. You can rhyme things together that don't really rhyme technically. Yeah. And so the same thing applies to syllables. You can drag a syllable out. And this is what happens in music very, very often. You can drag out a syllable to make it match this next phrase that you're saying because you want the time signature to be the same rather than
did you see the video? Syllables. Did you just see the green needle video yet, or you haven't even experienced the thing we're talking about here?
I put in the video.
Are you seriously going to talk to me like that? We're discussing this thing.
I'm sorry. I'm not trying to be rude. I'm sorry. I can hang up right now. I'm sorry. I'm not trying to be rude. I was just trying to honestly ask you if you looked at the video
so I don't know
green needle.
I didn't know if Jess had or not. I have no idea.
I was asking.
I had never heard it before.
No, I have not heard the video yet. No, I'm more than interested.
Can you look it up real quick before, because you're. I'm not trying to be rude. I'm sorry if it sounds rude, but I'm just saying you're talking. We're having this conversation about this experience that you haven't experienced yet, and it's this weird thing that I feel like this is evidence for subject.
Okay, but I'm not disagreeing with you though.
Oh,
I'm not saying
that
I'm
not
wrong.
Understanding. I'm sorry. I feel like you're trying to give examples for.
No, I'm trying to explain that the way syllables work, the number of syllables may not be what is the differentiating factor here. Because again, you can stretch syllables out. You can do so either in your mind or you can do so.
That's what I was saying. I think you should look at the video because I don't think that's what's going on here. If you look at the video, I feel like for me, I didn't know what to think. I was like, okay, I don't understand what's going on here. I like science. I like to understand stuff, but I was just like, I don't know what. I need to talk to somebody about this because I don't know what laws of physics. And that's when I started thinking, reality is subjective. There is, I feel like to a certain extent, obviously reality is objective because we are all living in a finite world to a certain extent, but there is a base level. Sorry,
do you agree that? hang on, you do agree that there's an objective reality to be had, right? I mean, reality exists.
Yeah.
I think he's saying is experience is subjective, but reality can be.
I'm saying reality is more subjective than we actually understand.
No. Perception of reality is subjective, right? It's experiential. There is an objective fact to be had. A circle is objectively round. A square is objectively have 4 sides. A triangle objectively has 3 sides. There's no subjectivity there. There is an now this is my belief. There's an objective reality that exists, which I presuppose. From that, we can draw inferences, right? But there's no. It's not that it's subjective whether reality exists. That's an objective fact. I think that we can all verify. But again, it's an objective fact based upon a presupposition that we experience something. Yeah. I'm experiencing something right now. I can't deny that, right? That's self-evidential.
I think definitely when we look at things, there is more going on than we can actually physically observe. That's for sure. So like you said,
I know what you're saying. Yeah,
well, the quantum makes that actually the case, right? So anytime even atoms alone, a microscope makes that objectively true, right? So if you look at, you see this table, or you see this chair, or you see that dog, you're seeing a dog, but there's especially for something biological, that there's more going on. There's more than the sum of your parts type thing. So there's a lot of systems and things that go into making a dog. So when you go even smaller, then you start going into what makes up a bone, and then you start looking at, or a cell, and then the cell is active, it's biological, it's moving around, but what makes that up? Oh, it's the same kind of thing that makes up the chair. Right, so it's a matter of when you look at something, yes, no, of course, what you can physically, what you can observe with your eyes is definitely not the only thing that's going on, 100%.
Yeah,
that's subjective at that point.
Can I say, listening to Steve's shows, boy, it really got my brain going about, what exists and what is real. I was listening to one where one of those that his guest kind of had a huge question mark over his head about the topic of numbers existing and what is material existence and stuff like that. I kind of see it this way. This is kind of to try to stay on topic for a little bit. Sorry before I maybe change it a little bit. I would say there's almost a possible reality where literally all of reality is just what we experience, but obviously nobody that believes in material existence isn't going to even consider that a possibility, and I wouldn't, and also, you tend to kind of avoid any of the narratives that your thoughts can influence reality and stuff like that. But what I found really interesting, if it's okay to kind of change the subject a little bit, is the existence of numbers and stuff like that. In my mind, there's kind of, if you're going to draw circles around what is material existence and what is all that exists. Material existence is kind of a subset of all that exists, because you can, depending on what you're saying, your vernacular and stuff, you can say that numbers exist. You just can't say that they're part of, or that they're actually some kind of material existence. They're not part of
abstract.
A material existence,
right.
But they certainly exist within their realm, mathematics, and they're certainly a force. It's the fact that those properties can, those properties can manifest themselves in the direction of how, in the material universe, a number, a printed ink number 1, isn't literally a number 1, but the existence of numbers in our reality, is what caused that ink to be there to begin with, so it manifests itself in reality, and it's part of existence. And, ever since I listened to that show, really got me thinking about, for example, if you take honey, I was thinking about honey, and if you wanted to say define kind of the material existence of honey, you could give a diagram of all of the different types of molecules that compose honey, right? But if you did that and ended there, you haven't actually said all that is true about honey, It's like sweet.
Are you talking about like taste and color?
That's part of honey's reality. The sweetness of honey is part of honey's. Yeah. It's like it's part of honey's reality. Huh? Sorry?
I said you're talking about what makes up honey doesn't necessarily describe experiencing honey.
Well, yeah, it's kind of like if I were to just give you a composite sheet of like everything that is in honey, to define honey, I haven't told you everything that is true about honey, because there's this whole reality, there's this context around honey, It's like we regard honey as sweet, well, sweetness isn't part of material existence, but it is part of the reality of honey, and the whole, you would also have to include, honey, like all of these kind of complex proteins and molecules, they come from this plant, world that also has a long history of, a family tree that goes way back and, along with stuff like that.
That's where they should be ready now. Right? So honey can be made up of the same things, but have a different flavor based on the location the honey has been made from or taken from, right?
Yeah. Type of flower.
Yeah. So,
we
both agree that honey.
Right, we both agree that there is honey.
Yeah, there's an objective fact that it's honey. It's subjective that
I can probably jump off of that actually though and say that an individual can we all agree that time exists, right? Time is objective. There is time, right? So you can experience time differently throughout your lifetime. So sometimes a minute will seem like a couple of seconds, and sometimes a couple hours feels like a couple of minutes. So the experience of time can be subjective, but time itself is objective. Time exists, period, right? Chris Foster for 9.99 says, wish I could call in and say hello, but I'm currently at work. Plus, sounds like you've got your hands full. Haha, enjoy your day, my friends. Thank you, and enjoy your holiday.
Yeah, enjoy your holiday, guys. Now,
so the thing is like the difference between describing and mapping out. So if you map out the human genome and you know what makes up a human being physically, it doesn't tell you anything about that person or an individual. So you can pick out and say, okay, so I can describe Steve, let's say, with nacho. He's made up of nachos. And then I can say that he's also got this DNA to have this specific eye color, this specific color of hair, his age, da-da-da-da-da-da, and I can materially describe to you, and so you could make a Steve. However, what I'm not telling you is anything about him as a person, because that is going to be based on your experience. If you like Steve or dislike Steve, that's not only just going to be based on your experience of Steve, it's also going to be based on your perception of whatever encounter with Steve that you've had. So that's what we see a lot when we end up with people who absolutely fucking hate somebody else. If you hate someone, it does not matter what they do. They could be just doing any normal goddamn thing and be like, oh, look at Linda and her fucking pink shirt. It's just a pink shirt. She hasn't done anything. You just hate it. Because fuck Linda. Steve gave to charity. Fuck that charity because Steve.
Yeah, we definitely got to start wrapping it up. But I will tell you, like I said, we may stream. Obviously before Christmas, she's got a stream tonight. I might do some Destiny. But if we don't see you guys, see us in person,
I may.
You may. Between now and the 25th, we do want to make sure that everybody has a safe and sane holiday Christmas. Even though I don't celebrate it, I usually take Christmas from streaming. I don't usually stream on Christmas, but maybe I do. I don't remember. I don't think I do, but I probably won't. But what do you guys?
This has been a great time.
I love this stuff, man. I think
so much of this is just so complicated. It's just
twice.
There's a lot, right? There's a lot when it comes to philosophy and maths and what is interchangeable and what counts as reality. And if you're not trying to understand the other person, then you're going to have a bad time. You're going to end up with a clusterfuck. If somebody says to you, 0.99 repeating equals 1, and you say, no, it doesn't, and what you're talking about is reality, like what you think reality is, like whether or not a number is reality, you're not communicating to the other person what you're talking about very well. And if you do it on purpose, you're an asshole.
And also, I want to point out that, like Josh Gardner, he had a proof that he did. Garver, he did a mathematical proof showing this thing. There was actually a mistake in it that I didn't, even though when I explained it, I got it right, and I didn't carry on that mistake, I don't think. But somebody had pointed out there's one of his symbols is wrong. He has a greater than or equal to, and he has a backwards. But this is why math is objective, right? Because anybody can look at this proof and go, hey, I think you have a mistake here, because they understand math. They go, hey, look, there's a mistake here. It is objective. It's not based upon subjectivity. Isn't it based upon, hey, it's your opinion that this is right or wrong? It's like, oh, you can show that this proof is not actually an actual proof because it has a mistake in it, right? Which Josh will obviously
math is just lines on paper.
It's just a triangle is just words on paper. It's not really a triangle.
There's no such thing as a triangle. Nothing is real. It's all fake. We're gonna die. It might be tomorrow. Let's get the fuck out of here.
Well, that's what I think is kind of interesting about that is, all that is existence and all that is true really does go well beyond just what is material,
Oh yeah, I think that's objective.
Yeah, and I mean, like, love. I mean, you could say that love is just a chemical reaction in the brain, right? But if you were to try to quantize it that way or whatever, but at the same time, there's a lot more. All that is love also has to include, the amount of care somebody gives, the amount of history somebody has, the kind of compound factors in the way somebody feels about somebody, if you don't include all of that.
Well, that's the difference between
the whole reality of what it is,
that's the difference between what is objective about it and what is subjective about it, right? So how you experience that love is going to be subjective, but the fact that it's there, that you are experiencing something, is objective. You've had an experience. That's an objective fact.
Love doesn't exist. It's an absence of hate.
It's an absence of hate.
That's going to be my new philosophy. Love doesn't exist. It's just the absence of hate.
I pulled a phrase from Matt Mercer from Critical Role, something one of the characters he was playing in the game said, and it was, there is no order, there's only fucking chaos. It's like, yeah, you know what? Yeah, fuck it. It's all chaos. The order that may exist is so unattainable to us that it may as well all just be chaos.
Right. The only order in this world is the little bit of order we cobble together temporarily.
Isn't that
pretty much?
What we think is chaotic actually has order to it. I mean, strange attractors and fractals, and it's weird, but that's a whole different topic. But anyways, we are getting late, so we got to wrap it up. Thank you for these calls. I'm seeing a lot
Thanks
of
for coming in
out there. Marine, Janine, Coucher. I don't do French, but is it Coucher?
Your second attempt was better.
Marie. I can pronounce Marie. But she says, thank you for the really interesting stream, Chesh and Steve. You're welcome. And we appreciate the fact that people like these streams. You know,
we bash our heads against the wall.
Audience, but we have fun.
We bash our heads against the wall on Twitter for you, so you don't have to.
Thank you. That's a good way of putting it. Yeah, we kill our brain cells for you. You know. Can we take us out now?
Let's get the fuck out of here.
Peace.